That's certainly not us. We are definitely the bipolar show right here. We are all over the place. So I'm going to jump right into the topic because it's kind of like it's something I'm going through now, but it was something I'd like to talk to you guys about. My original topic was don't let the bastards get you down. We've amended it to something a little simpler. Don't get brought down by others. Whenever you do something, and what I do for a living and what I do in my life is very mission oriented. It's about my personal mission to help people to do certain things. And along the way, I've come across people who have decided, hey, I want to come on board and I want to help and I want to invest and I want to do that. And by about the third time in 5 years of being burned by people, I almost let this one get me out. I was ready to wrap it up just a few days ago and just be done. Because somebody came along, wanted to invest some money and do all this stuff, and then 11 months later says, you know what, I want out and I want so much money, and that's not how things work. So now we got to worry about court, and we got to worry about this, and we got he said, she said, we got all these things going on. But you know what? My mission is to help people. My mission was never for me to have a perfect life and to never have a problem. My mission is to help people. And if it means I got to struggle to do that, that's what I got to do. But I can't let people bring me down. I can't give up. Too many people give up in this world already. That's why we got so many people dying from addictions. So many people running around with mental health that goes untreated. It's because people turn a blind eye to it. And we can't do that. So no matter what goes on, if you have a faith, if you have a belief and a mission, if you believe in what you're doing, don't let anybody stop you from doing it. Even if you guys are doing something that's different from what I'm doing, or even if somebody I know is doing something, we have opposite political ideas or any kind of ideas, socioeconomic ideas. It doesn't matter. I'm going to appreciate anybody who believes in what they believe in and they keep going in their mission no matter what. So that's really what I want to talk about today. Maybe you guys have had experience where there's been times when you almost got knocked out because of somebody else's actions or attitudes, and how you overcame that to keep going and doing what you do, because you guys are all where you are today because you did stick with it. So I'm going to shut up and listen to the smart people now.
Well, like anything, look at how many inventions and new fashions and styles and things that happen that go on. And if those people didn't, if they weren't the ventured people to try something new or do something, look at where we would be as a society. I mean, there's always those people that venture out, and because they decided to do something different, they paved the way. So, I mean,
yeah,
you got to realize that, kudos for those people that didn't care what anybody thought. We got to realize that we got to admire those people and say, look, those people, because they inspired you, you got to realize, you pay it forward by being inspired because they inspired you. You got to realize they didn't care what anybody else thought. They went ahead and did their own thing. They danced by their own music, their own drum, and they didn't listen to. And then it's funny because once it was okay and be cool to do what they did, then everybody was like, hey, it's cool for what they're doing. But I guarantee most of the people that were close to them didn't believe or get behind a crusade. It's usually the people that didn't know them that supported them, and it's always that way. And people have to remember is sometimes it takes, like sometimes it's the teachers that believe in the kids before the parents do. It's always the people around them that, outside of their normal peers that support them and give them the accolades to do what they ended up doing, And so, that's just food for thought to bounce to these guys that have other angles that they can give,
Well, somebody at one point must have turned to the guy who invented the pet rock and said, that's the dumbest freaking thing I've ever heard. And he says, I still believe in it. And he made a fortune. So who knows? Who wants to pick it up? How about, hey, Scott, you're already in the middle. Why don't you start us off, buddy?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to go on this, I mean, whether that be addiction to approval, and really overly caring about what somebody else thinks, or the fact that nobody can reject you but you. So, I mean, the reality is somebody says your idea is dumb or whatever you're doing is whatever. It's not what they say that matters. It's what you say to you after they stop talking, So I think a big thing on this topic is, don't get brought down by others. The reality is people are going to shoot at you for all sorts of different reasons. Some are going to be good reasons. Some are going to be horrible reasons, but they're going to shoot no matter what. There's some people that are trying to protect you from yourself or from they've got an experience. You're walking into an area where you don't have experience. They might have experience. They're trying to warn you. Okay. You might look at it as bringing you down, but it might be a protection move on their side, not a purposeful thing. But I think what you said is really important, Scott. You've got to believe in you. If you don't believe in you, who the hell's going to? And, I don't know that any one of us has ever purposefully done stupid shit. Now, that is not to say we haven't done stupid shit. It's that we purposely haven't done. Right? It's one of those, I don't think anybody.
It was on my list of things to do today. Dumb shit. Right?
Yeah, that's right. I just don't think that anybody really sets out to make mistakes, do bad things, whatever. At least I don't believe they do. And so, do things turn differently? Yeah. But that's part of life. If you were supposed to pop out of the womb and walk, you'd never fall down.
Right.
And if you were never supposed to learn how to get up, you'd never fall down. You'd be upright, you'd be on your feet the entire time. And then what would happen? There's all sorts of different examples of times where you're knocked down or things just don't work out. It was it's interesting. I was talking to a guy that I probably hadn't talked to in, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. Hell, it could be 10, 12 years now that I think about it. But I was talking to him today and he said, "So what have you been up to?" I said, "Which reinvention since the pandemic? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?" The reality, at what point did anybody sit there and say, "Hey, I had a pandemic in my business plan and I just knew exactly where to pivot at the right time"? That's not the way it worked, right? And it hasn't worked that way for anybody. So, I think the thing that you have to do is you have to be comfortable and confident in your capabilities, in what God has granted you, in the knowledge you've gained. How do you do those things? Gain more knowledge, be around more people, experience more things, fall down more often, get back up more often. And that's why, again, I think, as we are on the planet longer, we actually have some advantages in that we've experienced more things, and we've probably experienced the same thing in cycles more than once. John, tell us about mortgages in 2009.
Mortgages are awesome. Thanks for that lead-in, Scott. You know what? It's funny on that. I'm coupling off with the Super Bowl. Imagine Brock Purdy. Imagine how people are trying to bring him down right now, and how a young guy that is 24 years old, 2 years in the league, and how far he's got. I think that's a great example. The other example, I think, is the younger group we have. They're expecting everything. I think as elders, meaning not us, but older people, need to reach out. I had a guy that came up to me that I'm putting on a podcast Thursday, and he just couldn't believe it. He goes, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "You need a kick in the ass, man. You need to bring this up because the younger people expect everything. So when they don't get it, they're upset. And if you're in the sales business, your book business, whatever business you're in, I think we need to branch out and look at other people and say, how can I help you? It's really not as bad. If you're 24, 25, 30, 35, you're kind of used to the silver spoon. That spoon's gone, man. You gotta be here for you. And you can't be brought down by other people that when you put a post on social media, so many people I don't care what I put on social media. I don't care what someone says, but you get the younger group and they put something up and they get a negative comment, that ruins their day. So I think you kind of need to pick up some of those younger guys that will be the next CEOs or the next CFOs in the business and say, man, this is not bad. You're doing what you need to do. So I just think branching out and reaching out to other lines of business or other people that they're going to be beaten down. I mean, it's brutal what people put on social media. Again, I don't care, but especially women, young women, and if they get negative comments, holy balls. That's where I think we need to step in, pick them up a little bit, and say it's not as bad as you think.
Agreed.
Wow, look at that. You give John a little good lighting and he starts getting brilliant on us. I'm telling you.
Blossoming already.
It was such a great observation that young people today, I mean, we're almost, because of social media and everything, we're kind of training them to find their worth through the amount of likes they have and the amount of people. And that's crazy. And boy,
That's
talk about a
blind
situation where people can bring you down. I mean, they put something out there and not enough people like it, or they don't get enough views or not enough hits, and it destroys them. And me, I'm still trying to figure out how all those algorithms work. I don't know how that works.
I think that's why they don't have the dislike button, though, because that would probably really kill people if they had that dislike button.
Actually,
I mean, back in our days, it was if they didn't answer the phone, they didn't like us.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Lynn. That's why they turned off the downvote button on YouTube, because there was an up and a down button on YouTube. They turned the down one off about a year ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Because people were taking it personally. So the thing is, when you said about blind faith, I disagree with you totally. Because blind faith will get us through stuff. It's unfortunately witnessing all the negative feedback that holds us back if we let it do that. You know, the old quote about those saying it can't be done should interrupt but those who are doing it, that sort of thing. Those people are going to be the naysayers that show up when you're doing something like Scott, you were saying, like your project, what you're working on. There are going to be people who are going to say, you can't do that. It's not going to work, because they won't do it. And that's the thing people fall into. The reason why people want to bring you down is because they hate to see somebody else win when they're not doing the work themselves. That's one of the biggest
crab in the bucket.
Say again?
Like the crab in the bucket.
Yeah, exactly. It's the lowest common denominator wins. And since we're about, other people, and since I'm from the area of relationships, and Valentine's Day is tomorrow, let me throw a couple of things in the mix too. A lot of relationships.
Hey, listen up. If he's right about this shit, you may not have to buy the chocolate and flowers tomorrow. Listen up.
No, but what I was going to say is that in terms of relationships, and this transcends romantic ones too, it's other relationships too, social as well. Oftentimes we base our happiness on what other people say to us. Like you're saying about social media, it happens in relationships too. Like we were talking about offline earlier about when you come home from work and you decide what you're going to say to your partner based upon how you feel. But the thing is, a lot of people bring their work home with them, as in the mood, the upset, the frustration, the arguments. They then dump it on their partner when the partner had nothing to do with it, because we don't know how to handle our own stuff. One of my guidance with my clients is like, be self-accountable, self-responsible. So if something doesn't work out for you, it isn't up to your partner to fix it for you. And it's not up to your partner to carry the burden. It's up to you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, where am I offline? Where can I fix or change or shift my attitude so I can be a better partner? And if you all did that, there'd be a lot less divorces, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few things to keep the conversation going.
Well, no, I mean, that was something that actually I had a big problem with that in my relationship with Therese. I would come home and I would gauge how I was going to act on her mood. I had a great day, but if I come home and she's a little bit off, I would not be a positive. I want to come through the door and be, but now I've got to bring myself down, or I felt I had to do that. I didn't need to do that. I could empathize with her feeling off, but I can still share that I'm in a good spot. And maybe she needs to hear my positivity, but you're right. So many people, it's like if one of them's in a bad mood, they both have to be in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone's in a bad mood, rather than walking on eggshells, how can you be an encouragement to them? Not to be out of Pollyanna, but out of saying, it's like, I see how you're feeling, but let me help you. Let me give you some encouragement. Let me offer you what I'm grateful for you about, or anything you can do that can give them positive feedback that they go, hang on a second, it isn't so bad. So they shift. Because the other thing is when you start to lower yourself down to the level they're at, they've got nowhere to go because you don't help them up. The biggest gift you give somebody else is saying, you know what, I can see a better picture than you can. Let me help you out so you can see it as well.
All right. Rex, you got a lot here.
Over to you.
Hi, Rex.
Hi, everybody.
Love you, Rex.
Love you back. There's a lot here, and I have a few things I'd like to say. The first is, if somebody tells me something, goes back on their word, blows a deal, rips me off, gets mad at me. First off, if it's a friend or a family member, that's more important than a stranger in most cases. So it makes sense that people would get upset if their family's doing it.
Yeah.
Their friends are doing it. However, strangers are friends you haven't met yet. And so some people get involved in business and they develop a relationship, and then, one party goes south or goes a different direction. What I try and keep in mind is, why did I need to hear this? Why did I need to have this experience? What is it that I need to know that this other person is telling me? I may not want to hear it. I may not like what they're saying or doing. I may not want anything to do with what they're, suggesting, but there's something that it's about me and my resistance to what they're offering, or it's about me and what's going on. And then the other thing I think is how did I create this? In other words, we were all going along fine, and then it didn't happen. And so how did I make that happen? Now we can divorce ourselves from, are you controlling it? Are you really responsible or not? I'm not even going to go there because that's not relevant. It's what's relevant is my part that I can do about my reactions or my responses or my reframes, or what I can take out of the old saying, if life gives you lemons, so how do I make lemonade from it? Instead of going, why are you giving me lemons? Go, well, why do I need to have lemons right now? And how did I get into the situation where somebody's giving me lemons? And then what can I do with the lemons? In other words, do I throw them back at the person? Do I cry? Do I make lemonade from it? So there's that. There's a huge piece in there, though, also about expectations. It's like, Christmas or Hanukkah or a birthday or a gift, or tomorrow people going, oh, I'm going to get my, whatever from my lover. There's expectations involved when you do business, when you party with somebody or partner with someone, develop a relationship that
he already ate.
Aren't expressed, but they're certainly there. In the same way that when you go to, imagine this for a second, you're making a sales call, or you're going somewhere to negotiate a contract, or you going to somebody's house where you've had some difficulty. What's going on in your head before you get there? How many scenarios are you running that are less than glorious and not productive, and boy, this sucks, and they're a jerk, and this, that, and the other, or they're not going to like me, or they're not going to buy from me, or whatever it is. And then when you get there, you go, I knew it. And my question is how responsible are we for it going the way that it plays out because of what we were rehearsing in our head on the way there?
Mm-hmm.
So the question becomes can we take the person who stiffed us, ripped us off, divorced us, whatever they've done to hurt us, and understand that they're truly a gift, not because of what they've done, but because of what it opens up in us to have to look at. And if we don't look at us, but we only look at them, we are missing the opportunity to transform everything, and especially ourselves.
Rex, you're right on point, because I know that that's the conversation that got me through that. Again, a few days ago, I was like really upset, but the conversation that got me through that was me and my business partner saying, why did we get to this point? Regardless of what they did, we made decisions that made this happen out of some part of it was desperation. But the thing is, if we don't learn from what we did, we will do it again. We'll find somebody else who's not a good fit, or something else is going to happen. And so at the end of the day, there's lessons to be learned there. And you're right. It's not about blaming other people. It's about looking for, what could I have done better? That's all I got to be concerned with. What could I have done better? And better that. With that, it doesn't have to have blame. I have a part in everything that happens in my life. All I could do is worry about what part I played in that. And that is how we got through that, is having it. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that conversation kind of snapped me back and saying, well, you know what? Next time we have a situation like this, maybe we'll think it through a little bit differently so it won't happen. Maybe we won't, but at least we got a shot.
Well, I think the other
is that, this idea of expectations, and and what's going on is I used to. My wife would come to me at the time and go, "Hey, we just got this gig in Australia or Africa or wherever. We got this big contract." I go, "Okay." Because, well, aren't you happy? Aren't you thrilled? And I said, well, when the contracts are signed or when I'm in Africa, I'll be thrilled. But,
Yeah.
but right now, anything could happen. And oftentimes the gig came through or it didn't. And it caused me to think about things after a while. And that was, for yourself, how do you celebrate something without it becoming a necessity that it occurred that way? In other words, if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, you got a big contract," I go, "Wow, this is fantastic, wonderful, that's great," and then suddenly they yank it away from me, I go, "Well, damn, I got all my hopes up, I had false hope, and then it was, yeah, but see, that's not the way to look at it." In other words, be exuberant, be excited. Opportunities are I will say this: every single day of my life, something disastrous happens, even now. Somebody reneges on something, they do something, I lose money, I do this, I do that. Hardships don't go away just because you're enlightened or you're thinking right or you're practicing something or doing the law of attraction or whatever you want to call it. They don't go away. The question becomes is, how do you go through it?
Yeah.
Not they should disappear or the person should change, but what do you do with it? And that I think is why, you talk about mission or why we're here. We're here to learn how to go through it so that no matter what happens. I had a conversation last night. I'll wrap it up with this. I had a conversation with somebody I met almost 50 years ago. And I posted it on social media. I was delighted to be able to talk to this gentleman. He's won 15 Emmys. He's a big producer. But on top of that, he's an incredible guy. Now, he's done multiple shows. He directs, he produces, he's worldwide. For 37 years, he's produced one show, plus all the other things. You suppose that there's a lot of crap that could go wrong in 37 years or longer in producing a TV show or movies and all the different things? Of course, because movies are fraught with problems. TV shows are just fraught with problems. That's part of the fun of it, because you're always on your feet trying to solve something that's going haywire every second. But he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. In fact, I've loved him and felt very, very connected to him throughout all these years because of the very first time we met. He was a champion for me without even really knowing me for this director. I think pretty much I got the audition because he was such a, God, you got to look at Rex, that kind of. So he's so optimistic and he's so grateful and he's so humble. He's like, everything is wonderful. It's beautiful. I get to do this stuff. I'm doing the career and all these things. I work with the most amazing people. This is fun. What an incredible. He's one of the rare people, because not many people talk like that in Hollywood. A lot of them are, oh, my last gig was this, or they're all jerks and that, and they're all, no, God, what. So when you find someone like that, learn from them. Model them, ask them to mentor you. How do you have that attitude when things go wrong? Because that's truly, and it's not because he was born that way. So
that's awesome.
Appreciate it. Scott, you wanted to throw something in there a moment ago.
Well, I just, I think Rex kind of nailed it there. It's, you come through it all and it's your ability to respond, responsibility, right? Your ability to respond to the situation, whatever that might be. And I think as you experience more things in life, less things are shocking to you. Doesn't mean there aren't shocking things. There are plenty of shocking things. They just don't shock you as much. You've either lived through it, seen it, heard about it, whatever that is. And I think that's a big part of all this is, over time, again, it's funny that you were saying that about the contracts and different things. Now, I shared, I hadn't talked to this guy for like 12 years today and had a call. And there's no deal done. But it was just like the coolest thing afterwards going, I knew that was going to be a good thing. And I knew we were going to work towards something. And now, is it anywhere close to moving or not really? but it was the expectation of knowing you're working with somebody, a good quality human being, that, if things are supposed to be, they will be, they will go in the appropriate direction. And I think that's one of the things, in sales, you better get accustomed to hearing no, not now, not for me. I mean, say it, get accustomed to hearing it every different way you can, and then go, yeah, okay. So what about now? That was like 6 seconds ago. Get over it, right? It's the next thing, because if you're truly presenting something that can serve somebody, for me, it's okay. What haven't I shared with you that I need to, for you to understand what I understand? I'm close to this project. I'm close to this product. I'm close to this situation, whatever it is. And if you knew as much about it as I knew about it, I think you would probably feel a very similar way. So if you're not feeling a similar way, what did I miss? What haven't I picked up on? And I think that's, again, a little bit what Rex was saying earlier, and Scott, you were saying too. It's I don't think we need to beat ourselves up, but again, we're off course far more than we're ever on course. So get that in your head, and you'll stop kicking yourself so hard. You realize that's the way everybody is. Somebody doesn't agree with your concept or how you go about it. Okay. I can tell you there are people that sell completely different than me, and there's not a chance in hell I would ever want to sell like them. Now, are they successful? Yes. Do they do all sorts of stuff? Yes. Do they maybe make a whole hell of a lot more money than I do? Sure. Do I want to do it the way they do it? Not a chance in hell. It won't happen, because you've got to be who you are. You got to be authentic. That's why when my moniker became the Authentic Connector, it all started because somebody said, "Are you an influencer?" And I said, "Well, I believe I have influence, but I wouldn't call myself an influencer." And they said, "Why not?" I said, "Because to me, influencers are playing a game. They're really ultimately concerned about themselves." That being said, I would say I'm an authentic connector. Oh, interesting. What's the difference? Well, an authentic connector is concerned about the end result for all parties concerned. I want to make sure everybody does well. And so I think it's, part of this is where you come from. And there are people, think about the Wolf of Wall Street. Think about, the boiler rooms and where people, Glengarry, Glen Ross, where people can just stick it to people and feel great about it.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, it's because you're authentic and you have integrity. And that's the difference. It's integrity.
Yeah. I think that does become a big part of it is that I've got to, it's interesting. In my early corporate career, I made a decision to stand ground against the company, and the company was not overly happy with me. And I said, "You have every right to ask me to do what you ask me to do because I work for you. And I have every right to say no to what you've asked me to do. I just don't have that right to say no and still work here." So but I was honoring their situation. They had every right. I worked for them.
Right.
I chose to no longer work for them. So the fact is, you gotta stay who you are. And unfortunately, in these times, and Scott, you said it. You used to come home, you'd have a great day going, and you go, "Oh, I got to throttle this down." Why? Why can't you be? Why couldn't you come in theory, all hyped up because of a great day and throttle her up, as opposed to you throttling down?
Right.
That's true.
This just changed gears on us, no pun intended. Fast and Furious.
Just to
The thing was-
clarify for everybody, we're not going to throttle anybody. Okay, that's not what I just want to clarify
I
that.
feel
Okay?
so-
Just to clarify, I've never seen those, so there's no comment to that. Go ahead, Barry. Barry, I'll direct. Don't worry.
The difference, the thing that hit me was about the difference between sympathy and empathy. Because
Yeah.
sympathy is, because the whole thing about, the difference between sympathy and empathy is when you find somebody who's falling down a hole. Empathy is you lay down a rope or a ladder and help them climb out. Sympathy is you throw down find someone in a hole, you throw on a rope, and you jump in with them. So the whole point is when you go down the pit where somebody is already, it's sympathetic, but nobody wins. If you're empathetic, you hold the space for them, you care about where they are, but you're encouraging them to rise up. That's one of the gifts we can give somebody else. And frankly, if we all do that, we can raise everybody up. So that's a big piece of the puzzle. The other one I was going to talk about, remember what it was, because someone just covered already, which is great, is one thing I learned when I was in grad school, we talked about this thing, we said about how you relate to the issue is the issue. So the idea being is that we tend to react to stuff. It's like, okay, you reacted, great. What triggered the reaction? Because it was inside, not outside. So we learned about what is it we have instead. So basically we get empowered, which is great. And that self-empowerment is a royal gift to ourselves as well. And one other piece that dropped in was that thing about we tend to repeat things if we don't learn from them. That's a quote. That's George Santayana had a quote about that. Like, those who fail to learn from the history are doomed to repeat it, which is actually about battles and wars and countries. Right. It really is the effect of relationships too. Because I know for myself, I had the same thing happen in 3 different relationships because I didn't learn the lesson the first, second, and third time. It took me a long time to figure that one out. So that ability to learn so we don't fall in the trap again is a very self-empowering choice to go through.
Yeah, I like that. My sponsor used to tell me, if you forget to remember, you're doomed to relive. So, it's always, I like that. That's a t-shirt.
Well, thank God you're doomed to relive, because at least you're alive.
Yeah, at least you're.
Indeed.
What a horrible thing. You get to live longer.
So
but I wanted to ask.
Go ahead.
Do you ever think when somebody, you hear about throttling down and throttling up, do you ever think that, or ask yourself, why is it that right now I need to learn to throttle up myself instead of letting someone throttle me down? I mean, in other words, again, it's where the focal point goes. If it goes to, this person's raining on my parade, then the question is, well, how do I maintain, who I am and what I'm doing and love myself and love them, even though they're raining on my parade? In other words, the second we call it something, that's what it is. So if we go, they're being a jerk, well, then that's what they are. Not that they are, but in our head they are.
That's what we see. Yeah.
So instead of going, why are you being an ass right now? Maybe it's like, maybe I need to learn how to deal with asses too. Jerks. Maybe the thing is that this is a lesson for me, not to go and be the victim of them, but to be able to either hold my ground or to listen to them or to learn something or whatever the choices are. But there's such a tendency for us to put all of our energy into the circumstance or the event or the other person that we don't like, because we're going, on our path, and then something, there's a stop sign or something. We go, well, screw that. I don't, why is there a stop sign in my path? Yeah. The stupid stories about, the guy standing on the corner and a cop drives by and he goes, pig. And the cop,
No, I haven't heard that.
Gets a pig.
No.
Well, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm telling you that when he yells out pig, he's warning the cop that there's and he hits the pig.
I gotcha.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Yes,
I'm sorry. I was still looking for a horse somewhere.
Yeah, I was.
You're looking for a what?
I was looking for a horse somewhere.
Yeah.
Long story.
I don't need a horse.
But the point is, so there's a pig up in the road. The guy yells pig. Now, what does the cop do? If he doesn't hear it, keeps going, or he goes, screw you, whatever, and hits the pig, or goes, did he ever think that it might have been a warning?
Right.
And this is an important lesson for us. Maybe when someone goes, hey, idiot, you shouldn't do it that way, or I'm off the deal, or I'm divorcing you. maybe that's a warning. It's an alert. It's an alarm that we need to pay attention to something that we wouldn't otherwise pay attention to. And it's kind of coming through the most less than glorious way to do it. But that's the only way it gets our attention, because if it comes in nice and rosy and everything else, we don't pay attention to it. But when it goes bam, we go, oh. Instead of going, wow, I get to learn something here, we go, screw you for doing it to me.
Well, I had one of those warnings my first wedding when my brother painted "help me" on the bottom of my shoes. And I didn't know he did it. So when we knelt down in church in front of everybody, we knelt down in front of the preacher, and all the people in the congregation could see my shoes said "help me" on it, and they all started laughing. I didn't even know what it was. But
They all say it, were they all agreeing? That was the only part.
You know what? I think most of them would have. Most of them would have. There's certain things you should tell people when you get married. Like, one is, my parents don't give me their address because they don't want me to come over, and I've been in a psych ward most of my life. That's things you should know. I didn't know. So let me take it to the next level here, because this is something that we kind of touched on almost. A lot of times when I'm feeling like somebody's not supporting me, or somebody is kind of knocking what I'm doing, when I do address it, you know what I hear back a lot of times? Well, you don't support me either. You're not supporting me, and you're not seeing my side. So I think sometimes a lot of that stuff is, maybe I need to look at, am I being supportive to others the way I want them to be supportive to me? And it doesn't mean I have to agree with people to be supportive of them. It simply means I have to say, listen, you got the right, and I'll back your play because that's what you want. But sometimes I get a little stuck. We all do. I think as humans, we get stuck in, this is mine and you should support me. I'm not going to support you because what you're doing is really stupid. But if you supported me, everything would be okay. So do you guys find that's important, that you're supportive to other people if you want to have that brought back to you as well? Rex, you're in the middle. You might as well take it.
Well, the old saying, what you put out, comes back to you. So, I mean, obviously, if I want some support from somebody else, they're more likely to give me support if I support them first. The law of reciprocity, anything you want to talk about, suggests that, people, we're transactional in many ways, but the idea is that givers get, and the other side of giving, though, is receiving. So you have to know how to do both. And that's truly important. I want to share a story, but if I've shared it before, go ahead and stop me. But around 1980, 81,
Okay, stop. I'm only kidding.
Thank you, John. Well, I know this won't make any sense to you, John, but hopefully
it's not about mortgages.
No, it's not. But I left one ashram to travel to another ashram. And when I got to the other ashram, one was on the West Coast, the other's on the East Coast. And I checked into the new ashram as a visitor. I was going to spend about 3 months there. And as a visitor, you had a choice of taking a spiritual name or not. So I took a spiritual name. They gave me a spiritual name. I went, great. And so one day when satsang was about to arise, where you're going to be with the guru who's down the hall, I'm in the kitchen because I had kitchen duty, and I'm sweeping the floor, and this guy is cutting vegetables. And I said, could you step aside and I'll sweep under your, he said, could you wait? And I said, well, could you just step aside and I'll just sweep where you were? And he goes, but I'm chopping vegetables. Could you just wait? I'm like, inside, I'm like, I want to get the satsang. I want to get out of here. Just come on, pal, just move over. Right. And he's like, well, just relax and just stand still and wait until I'm done. I'm like, so we erupt. I mean, we have this huge fight in the kitchen, and 100 yards away where the ashram, where the satsang hall is, you can hear all these people running towards us, and they go, quiet. Never in the history of the ashram have we been able to hear, a fight from the kitchen all the way to the satsang hall. We're now feeling contrite, right? We realize we've disrupted the service. So we decide that we are going to apologize, kind of shake hands in an ashram kind of way. And as we do, we exchange names. And my spiritual name was his spiritual name.
Wow.
The only two in the entire ashram of 300 people were us, and we were fighting with each other or fighting with ourselves. And I I mean, only this happens in the ashram, right? No, it happens every day with people in supermarkets, and they may not have your same name, but they're you fighting with you. I mean, it just get over it.
I love that story. I love that.
Yeah, it was pretty surprising at the time.
You gotta laugh at that. You gotta laugh at that.
But it's just so poignant in so many ways. I mean, you could translate that into almost every battle you have is really a battle between you and you.
Wow.
But you actually had that shown in the material world, which is amazing.
Wow.
Well, but I mean, people think if they go to the ashram, everything's going to be perfect. I'm in there yelling at some girl because the milk wasn't right or something, or she's yelling at me because I didn't do the right thing. I mean, you think that it's all spiritual lovey-dovey, everything. No, it's where every button that you possibly could have gets pushed, and you're sitting there going, let me be egoless and be one with everything. And then somebody says something, you go, what? How dare you say that to me? Egoless myself I am. I mean, it's just letting go of who we think we are in order to understand that the people around us are really serving us, not the way we'd like to be served, but they're serving us in incredible ways.
Absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. Who wants to grab something next?
I don't know, but we can start going around. It's going to be.
Well, we can kind of do a go around now. This is kind of cool. I'm actually starting something really cool tomorrow. I know Barry will like this. Is I'm taking the Master's Handbook from Illusions, Richard Bach's book, and I'm going to do little mini 5-minute podcasts 3 times a week on the mornings, and take one of the readings and just kind of talk about how it applies in my life and let them think about their life. Just those little moments and stuff. And, just have some fun with that stuff and maybe connect with some people that I don't normally connect with by doing that. It'd be kind of fun. But anyway, so, we talked about it, and, I'm not sure where we landed on all of this, other than it seems like a really ongoing theme in all of this is that it almost always, you got to look within yourself to get your answer. I mean, you can't expect other things from other people. And if I'm getting pushback, there's probably a lesson I need to learn, and maybe I should look for the lesson and stop staring at the problem so much. But Barry, why don't you take us away give us some final thoughts here?
There's a word that I love that one of my friends uses. That's really you may have to bleep it. I don't know. But basically, she has this thing that said, basically, when she gets to the place where she really knows who she is, she becomes unfuckwithable.
On what?
Unfuckwithable. Because the thing is that what she means by that is that basically you become untriggerable in that sense. Now, yes, we get triggered ourselves, but that's her internal process. But the fact she doesn't let other people do it to her, that's freedom. Because the thing is, like Rick was saying, growth is going to happen, stuff's going to happen all the time. And as what Denise put it in there too, is that it's up to us, in the sense, to really be focusing on our own journey. So if other people do things, cut us up on the freeway, or the cup pauses over, or somebody gives us the wrong change, that's their issue, their stuff, their thing. We get to choose how we feel about it. We get to choose how we react to it. And the key thing is, and like what Scott was saying about responsibility. Unfortunately, we don't respond. We react all the time. We're programmed by the way society teaches us to be immediate reactive, to show our colors as how we're supposed to stand. It's like, no. Response for me means stopping before I do anything and consider what I want to do before I say take any action. That's what real response is. It's not a trigger-happy reactivity. The power we have to have dominion over ourselves means we get to choose what we do with it, choose how we respond. And one of the best things I love doing, this is my a few times, when somebody gets upset, looking to get me upset, and I don't, that's fun.
It really is, yeah.
So that's in a sense, bring that to everything. Not to do it as not to do it to prove something to them, but to feel that we take care of ourselves. Because the other part also is, by the way, when we get upset, when we get angry, when we get all these upset feelings, we're doing toxic things to our own bodies. So why not treat ourselves better by not doing that?
I just got to comment on something, because you mentioned something about the unmessable. I'm not gonna, however you said it. I'm going to say it wrong. but which all my wives became as soon as I married them. They were unmessable. I couldn't touch them. I couldn't work with them. But one of the big things that goes on here, and it kind of leans into what you're saying, and we can comment very quickly on this, is everybody's like, well, you're triggering me. You're triggering me. You're triggering me. And we blame everybody else for hitting our triggers, but nobody says it's my responsibility not to have triggers like that. Why am I walking around with all these triggers? It's my responsibility. A trigger is simply something you haven't dealt with. But we still blame everybody else for hitting our triggers. Do you see that? Is that
absolutely? The thing is, and some people actually set their lives up to have triggers all around them, see if who steps on them.
Yeah,
they want to be upset. It's like it's almost for some people, frankly, I don't think they feel alive unless they're upset. So they're looking for things to get upset about. Versus, can they find their own way of living their own lives? Absolutely,
wow. Yeah. You almost cause them pain by being agreeable instead of fighting with them. Okay,
that's their choice. That's the other part. It's like, I'm get back to 4 agreements. It's like, don't take things personally, but also don't make other people's feelings more important than your own.
Absolutely.
I think one thing we haven't said, which I guess it goes without being said, but I'm going to say it anyways, is that we stop it. We forget to take a minute and forget that when we're thinking about what other people have said that react us, we should go back within ourselves and be one with ourselves and think what we think and let go what we just thought.
Right. Absolutely.
And release what was said and go, how do we feel about ourselves? Turn that back. And that should really say that's what matters, because it's none of our business what other people think about us, but I know that goes without said, but I think that helps relieve a lot of that. But I know we're almost running out of time. So
well, we're doing okay. We got about 11 minutes. So John, why don't you tell us what you're thinking right now?
I think Scott had something to say. Scooter had something to say before that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if somebody were to say, well, you just triggered me, I would say, thank you. Thank you for being so perceptive that I could read your mind and know your triggers. I mean, the fact, I mean, very, it's funny when you guys were talking about it. That's what came to me. I've never.
That's what triggered him.
I have never thought that thought.
No, it's a brilliant thought. I love that.
But I mean, really, why not diffuse the situation and just say thank you that you believe that I'm so perceptive that I know what triggers you. Yeah. Because the reality is, somebody can sit there. It's so. For me, when you guys were talking about that, and I thought about it that way, it's like it just takes a totally different thing. How can I trigger you? Like, I know that now. If you're a spouse or you've been around somebody and you know their history and things like that, but to be out in public, it's like Peggy and I were watching something the other day, and all of a sudden somebody comes up and he goes, "I'm going to be so triggered if they walk in."
You already perceiving that, right?
Well, that's exactly it. It's like, why? And then they don't even have to say anything. They just have to walk in and you become triggered.
Yeah.
Wait a second. You're assigning it to the wrong location. Yeah. They can't trigger you if you are untriggerable.
Yeah.
It's that same, what, I won't swear like Barry did, but
go on.
No, but I mean, but it is what really got to me is just saying thank you. I appreciate you thinking I'm that perceptive. I'm really not. I have no clue what would trigger you.
I love the fact that you said that. They're like, if they're going to come in here, they're going to trigger me. They must have their trigger on a dimmer switch, and they've already turned it on low power because they're already triggered.
Well, isn't it funny how that's just saying you're trying to hold two thoughts in one at the same time?
Well, there's a lot of ways of describing it, but I think that's, people are sitting in this situation now. I find myself becoming calmer day after day. Seriously, I'm not joking about this.
Yeah.
There's just, and the world is nuttier day after day. But there's less things. I mean, there's less things there's more things I don't like, but there's less things that bother me.
Mm-hmm.
because they're so ridiculous that they're beyond my ability to do anything about it. And so I'm concerned with me, and doing the right things that I can do, and treating people with respect, honor, and dignity, treating people nicely, thanking people. I had somebody I, again, hadn't communicated with in years, but commented on one of my posts today. And she said, I just want to say thank you for the inspiration you continually throw out there. May God bless you today. And I went back and I just said, I accept. Thank you for being willing to share something so wonderful with me over such a small gesture.
Mm.
And so return that in kind. And when we're talking about if we're not getting enough this or enough that, we're probably not giving out enough this or enough that. I've had many of my mentors say, you know why I teach what I teach? Because I need to hear me most.
Yeah.
They need to hear that lesson over and over again. And we tend to do that because we haven't internalized or whatever enough of it until we have. And then a new lesson pops up and gosh, we teach something else for a period of time because we're so smart to do that, right? The syllabus is internal, right? So again, I mean, I just think that, we set up in this me, now, immediate gratification society. We've set up this, there's got to be a instant reaction to everything. And that's this whole, where did the word trigger come from for this? I'm serious. I'm not.
Roy Rogers' horse.
Well, no, I get that. But that's what trigger used to be, was Roy Rogers' horse. Yeah. Now it's like, oh, I'm so upset with you. It's like, why?
It actually came, NLP had and somebody put out a product called Triggers in the 70s or early 80s or something like that, saying, this
causes people to take action.
It's differentiating themselves from anchoring, and responding a knee-jerk reaction that was a trigger as opposed to, so I can trigger the response versus anchor the response,
Got it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, but I mean, but
it caught on. I mean, I don't know.
The definition as of late has modified pretty significantly.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Not for the better either.
No. People think trigger because the thing is basically if you let yourself be triggered, you're playing the victim. That's what they're doing.
Well, that's exactly it. Right? I don't understand why people want to, because quite frankly, people are asses. They're not very sympathetic. They don't. I mean, I want to be I want to feel bad, so you treat me nice. Nobody's treating you nice. Why would you want to feel bad? It's like this. It's going down this weird path. You're trying to create something that at one time maybe said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear this," but people are so sick and tired of saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear this." Now they're just saying, "Shut up."
Yeah.
There we go. All right, we got to John.
I don't know where I went with
No, you're perfectly fine. John, can you give us a minute 30?
No, I can't because Scott triggered a lot of my emotions.
You see, and we don't care. We're just laughing.
I don't give a shit. Barry, it's so funny. I have a friend of mine from the UK, and their favorite phrase is "abso-fucking-lutely." And really what that means is when I'm serious about it, here's what I do. And just to run through a few of my notes personally, I don't believe in this trigger bullshit. I don't believe in these words of the day because, next month there's going to be another one because Taylor Swift is going to say something and then it's all popular. I'm a big fan, obviously, of back to the basics. Be nice to people. Like Rex was saying, like Scott was saying, like you all were saying, get back to the if they don't like me, don't like me. I absolutely don't care about it. But when it really comes down to don't get brought down by others like we had talked about, be yourself, man.
Yeah.
Be yourself. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to use these buzzwords just to fit in because it doesn't work. That's me. Absolutely done. Good night.
And that's from our mortgage guy.
Mike, light's almost out.
We're all chuckling like we're at church and the priest said jackass, and we're all like, "Oh my God!" That's great.
Thanks, Denise, for your comment. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, Denise. Rex, 2 minutes, buddy.
Wow, I get more than John.
Damn, triggered.
Love you,
So
John.
you're walking through the apartment or house at night and it's dark and you stub your toe against the table or chair or something like that. And you go, damn it, chair, and you blame it for being in the spot. But, you were walking in the dark. And maybe not. Maybe you're walking in the light, but you stub your toe. What do you blame? You blame yourself or you blame the object? How is that any different than blaming a person for triggering you?
Right.
Same thing. It's just one's a human and one's a chair. So it's that tendency to go outer. I really, people say, oh, I got to separate myself from negative people or those energy vampires. And I've said this here before. Enlightened people are surrounded by energy vampires and negative people all the time, but it doesn't seem to bother them. Why? Because they're free of that. Wouldn't you rather be free to be around anyone than to say, I can only choose? We're people helpers. We should be free to help everyone and not go, I help them, but not those people, or those people, that they're assholes, they're this, they're that. No. Get free. And the only way you get free is to have the experience of letting go of something. And you're not going to let go of it if you don't know it's there. So the people around you, the events and circumstances, they're to bring those things up so that you can let them go, so that you can be free, so that you can be around anyone or be anywhere in any circumstance or any event and enjoy it instead of suffering through it.
Wow.
I love you, Rex.
Wow, Rex. Thank you. I got to tell you guys, I'm humbled. And I actually feel a little silly.
And we got Barry still too.
No, we already had Barry.
Oh, okay.
Didn't we?
Yes.
I didn't think so, but
Yeah,
okay.
I thought so.
Started with
no.
Okay.
I just want to say I just felt with all the stuff that I was getting in my head, but amazingly just spending a few minutes with friends and sharing and just kind of getting some things off my chest. And sometimes I forget, sometimes that's the only thing you got to do. Stop holding it in, just let it out a little bit, then laugh at yourself. And now I'm definitely going to get a good chuckle at myself tonight. I'm definitely going to just sit back and say, boy, what the hell? Why was I letting that go to that extent? Because for some reason, I just felt like feeling sorry for myself. Well, I don't now because I'm around friends and they listen and they care and they share. And that's great. And I want the ability to help anybody, regardless of who they are. And I can't do that if I'm going to allow everything to affect me. I just need to be on task. Lynn, what do you think, babe?
I think it's a great show, and it's just a reminder that, sometimes we just have to pause when people try to bring you down and say, you know what? Their opinion doesn't matter. They're not, they don't define me. They're not, thank you for your opinion, because I realize your opinion doesn't matter. It should make you revert back to yourself and realize that what you feel matters. And like they say, opinions, assholes have opinions. That's just probably my Walmart order. But anyways, I'm going to shut up now.
Time to close. We have to close on time, don't we?
Yeah, I know. We got to go.
So
We
people
did good.
share the show. If you like the show, share the show.
Share the show.
Share it, subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you next time. Love you all. Thanks for being here.
Keeping me safe and sound.